They're not aware of that simply because they have been taught away from it. They've been given this Islamic religion. They have been given a new language, Arabic speak. They have been given a dead white man on the cross and been trained to call themselves Christians and so forth and so on, you see. And you go into another country called the Sudan, and you will find the descendants of the ancient Egyptians living there, but they will not claim ancient Egypt. They call themselves Sudanese. And they too are Muslims, embracing Islam, Christians, embracing Christianity. Then you go into another part of Africa, and you go into Ethiopia, and you meet a people there, and they call themselves Ethiopians and not ancient Egyptians. And they too have embraced a religion called Islam and Christianity. Now, I'm saying that to say this, that those people living in those geographical land areas that are just named, Ethiopia, Sudan, Egypt, are all one and the same people. They all made up what is known as the Nile Valley civilization during the time of antiquity. And then you have a large segment of us living in North America who are descendants of the ancient Egyptians. But we have been trained to call ourselves Negroes, Black, African Americans, colored, part Indian, whatever other name you can call. And as you came into this auditorium today, I left some literature so you can pick up and read this literature. And in this literature, From Pharaoh to Negro, I wrote that article in 1991. Please read that article because it has a profound message to you. And if you can understand that message, then you are ready to grow and bring your mind upon a higher level of consciousness. And then the next page is telling you something about the creation of the Ancient Egyptian Museum in Chicago, Illinois. When it was started, the day that I opened the doors up to the general public, etc., etc. And then on the third page, you'll find how Negroes got religion. And that's a very profound picture there, depicting the Negro in his slave servitude position before his white master who gave him the Bible to go out and preach this Bible among his brethren. And then on the fourth page, the last page I gave you in this pack, how we are divided, how we were taught to be divided among us by Willie Lynch, who came to this country to teach the plantation owners how to divide their slaves. And as long as we are divided, we will never unify into something of substance. I'm here today to talk about religion. We're going to have to get down and come up with a great understanding about religion. We're going to have to face reality. Now, the reality that you may face may hurt you about religion. It's going to destroy your belief and your faith about religion. But maybe that's good for you, simply because maybe that's the only way that you can find your way back to your own creator, personal spirituality. And you have a spirituality because you were born with that. Okay, we're going to talk about that. We're going to talk about God. And we're going to talk about the creator, two different entities. I'm going to tell you that God is a man. You're going to say, what? I'm going to tell you a lot of things that may shock you, may open your mind. I'm going to tell you some things that you may already know, which is okay, nothing wrong with that. But we have to grow. We're going into the 21st century. And we're going to have to grow. And we're going to have knowledge to grow. And you're going to have different scholars among us to bring a different message in order for us to grow. That's the only way we can grow. Okay? You're going to have to listen to the message from someone who loves you, someone that is the same as you. No outsider is going to bring you a message to liberate you, to liberate your mind, to enhance your mind, to bring your mind and your spiritual consciousness on a higher level, but one among you. Okay? I am one like you. So I'm here to hopefully bring some new knowledge and a new concept of thinking to the table. Now, I wrote a book called The Historical Origin of Christianity. In this book, I'm saying that there's never been a man that ever walked the earth in human form of any race, creed, or color by the name of Jesus Christ. Never existed. Also, in my lecture and in this book, I'm telling you that there's never been a man that ever walked the earth in human form by the name of a Prophet Muhammad. So Muslims don't feel secure. There's never been a Prophet Muhammad either. There's never been men that ever walked the earth in human form by the name of Abraham, Isaac, Jacob, or Moses. That all religions are man-made, pagan, heathen, occult religions based on mythology. That's all religions are. And to prove that, I'm going to tell you this. No one coming into this world in human form was born with a religion. Is that true? You know anybody was born a Christian coming out of their mother's womb? You know anybody was born a Muslim? Religions of all kinds are man-made. And today I'm going to try to help you get back in touch with your own personal spirituality. And it's very simple. Because you walk around 24 hours a day, 365 days a year, 7 days a week with your own personal creator-given spirituality that your creator gave you at the time of your birth, using your mother and your father as human instruments to bring you into this world in human form. And that she, creator, gave you an indwelling spirituality that's in tune, in place, and hooked up to the omnipotent spiritual consciousness by way of your pineal gland. You have a pineal gland that you were born with. And that pineal gland that you were born with is a sensor organ. It sits in the middle of your brain. It serves as a receiver and a sender between you and your creator. And the bottom of that pineal gland is your nostril. What do you do with your nostril? You intake air that keeps that indwelling spirit alive inside of you. That's what the pineal gland does for each and every human being. You have a pineal gland. You were born with it. You are in constant contact with your creator every day of your life. Now, if the creator wanted you to have a religion, then you would have received that religion at birth. But you didn't have a religion. You was not given a religion when you were born. You were given this divine indwelling spirituality. Now, if you can understand what I just told you, then you are free of religion for the rest of your life. And it's very simple. You were born with spirituality, use it. get in contact with it. Because every time that you embrace a religion, you take that free spirituality that your Creator gave you at the time of birth and put it in bondage. That's what you're doing with it. Because every religion has laws, rituals, customs, and ceremonies that you have to abide by. When I was in Egypt, those Muslims pray 5 times a day over there. They even have special rugs for their knees. No matter what time of day, at a certain hour, they drop everything and they go and fall on their knees and they up and down praying. And when they get through, they come back and continue their business. What happened to people like that? They have been indoctrinated into a religion, a man-made religion, that have put their own spirituality, their creative, free, given spirituality in bondage by accepting a religion. This is what happened. You see, nobody was born with cigarettes. You know anybody that came out of their mother's womb smoking cigarettes? You don't know nobody that came out with cigarettes. You don't know anybody that came out of their mother's womb drinking alcohol or using drugs. Drug use, alcohol use, tobacco use, and religion are all man introduced by man to control you, to control your spirituality. And here's another thing that religion is doing to us as a people. It is dividing us as a people. We will never unify as long as we embrace a religion. Okay? Because you take Jehovah's Witness. Jehovah's Witness can't come in this meeting here today. It's against their religious principles. They can't do that. Am I right or wrong? Okay? The Muslims and the Christians have a division. They don't like each other, so to speak. They kill each other. Jews don't like the Muslims. Christians don't like the Jews. The Christians don't like the Muslims. It goes on and on and on. And here we are, caught up in these various religions that's keeping us divided. We're going to have to unify ourselves in order for us to get back to our own spirituality. And if you can understand what I'm saying to you, you will never have to go to church again in your life and deal with Reverend C.T. Chicken Wing and his foolishness. You won't need Reverend Chicken Wing anymore. See? You won't need to go to a Muslim mosque anymore. You won't need Farrakhan or the Honorable Elijah Muhammad. You won't need that. See? You won't need to be from the blood of Abraham. I gave a lecture in California last year, and a lady was there and she brought her mother with her. And I was talking, going over different parts of religion and so forth and so on. And I mentioned about no Abraham. She said, oh, no, Williams, you're wrong. I'm from the blood of Abraham. And I said, okay. I said, is this your mother? She said, yes. I said, miss, is that your daughter? She said, yes. I said, is she from the blood of Abraham? She said, I don't know what you're talking about. So that ended that. You see, one of the things that we as a people have a problem with and a lack of knowledge is that we do not know ancient history, and that's what we're going to have to know. When you know ancient history, then you know something about your ancestral history, you see? And you're going to have to go back into the time of antiquity. And the greatest civilized people that has ever walked the earth were our ancestors, the ancient Egyptians, who never practiced a religion. They had a spiritual way of life They knew the laws of the universe. And they called those laws the laws of Ma'at, cosmic laws of Ma'at. And they lived by those laws, you see? And they built themselves a great civilization that lasted over 9,000 years until the European came on the scene.
Don't know what to read? You can start here.
That great civilization, okay? But they built themselves this great and glorious civilization in ancient Egypt, not with a religion, but they were in tune with the omnipotent universal spiritual consciousness, and they built the greatest edifice that has ever been built on planet Earth, the Great Pyramid. Everybody knows about the Great Pyramid, is that right? They built a Sphinx. The body of the Sphinx is 1 city block long. How did they do that? They were geniuses. Your ancestors, the ancient Egyptians, were geniuses. But they didn't have a religion. Religion would have crippled them, would have destroyed them. Okay? And here today, the descendants of those great people, the ancient Egyptians, are now embracing a dead white man on the cross and saying that this dead white man is my personal savior. Okay? And every Sunday morning, the descendants of the ancient Egyptians are in these churches being encouraged by Reverend Chicken Wing to say, if you have any problems, bring your problems to the Lord Jesus Christ. And this Lord Jesus Christ is a European white man who is your enslaver. Is that right? Who is your oppressor. But somehow we are encouraged to bow down to this dead white man on the cross. And then in Christian theology they tell you that God so loved the world. Now God is a He. So loved the world that He sent His only begotten Son, another male, to save the world from sin. And that Son happens to be a European white man, the image of a European white man. His only begotten Son. But that means that there's no other race of people. It's the Son of God. Only the white man. See, you have to realize what is being taught to you and listen and ask questions of what's being taught to you. Now, why is this European the embodiment of God on earth? Political reasons. There's a reason for that. You have to understand that. So in my book, The Historical Origin of Christianity, I have put together for you historically, step by step, the historical origin of Christianity. Now there's never been a man that ever walked the earth also by the name of the Prophet Muhammad, because this image here, this Jesus the Christ image that we all know, and the faceless image of the Prophet Muhammad is one and the same. But no, every religion has its own story, its own theology attached to each religion. And they give a birth date for a Prophet Muhammad. They give a birth date for a Jesus the Christ. And they give you a date and a time of Abraham and Isaac and a Jacob and a Moses, all in religious theology. But if you came outside of your belief in these religions, you will never find evidence to prove that there was a Jesus Christ walking the earth. You cannot find evidence outside of your belief to prove that there was a Prophet Muhammad. You cannot go outside of your belief to find any evidence of Abraham, Isaac, Jacob, or Moses, you have to realize that you have been fooled by these religions. You have been fooled by these ministers. You have been fooled by the leaders, because the leaders and the ministers, they have been fooled themselves. Okay? So you're going to have to really dig into the understanding of these various religions in order for you to find your own spirituality, in order for you to understand who you are spiritually. Okay? You have to understand who you are spiritually before you can understand these religions. Or, let's go on the reverse side. You have to understand religion before you understand your spirituality. And your spirituality is right up under your nose every time you take a breath. That's your spirituality. And when you embrace religion, you're clogging the artery of your spiritual, natural, birth-given spirituality. That's what you're doing. You're clogging that artery between yourself and the Creator by believing in a man-made religion. Okay. Then you're going to have to understand that we have to make our way back to ancient Egypt. I cannot reiterate that enough times in order for you to understand that. That is the only entity that we have and the only avenue that we have that will take us back to our greatness. And once we get back to ancient Egypt, and once we get back in touch with our own personal spirituality, then at that time we can begin to unify as a people. And once we unify as a people, then we can do anything that we want to do. You remember in 1983 in Chicago, Illinois, there was a man by the name of Harold Washington who ran for the mayoralship of the city of Chicago. Everybody remember that? Well, something happened in Chicago that year. Our community, our African community in the city of Chicago, unified around one man, one ideology. And that ideology and one man was Harold Washington, to put him on the 5th floor of City Hall to be the mayor of the city of Chicago. Little children walking around with Harold Washington buttons. Young people, high school, teenagers, walking around with Harold Washington buttons. Middle-aged people, old folks, walking around with Harold Washington buttons. And his white opponents would say, you know, I have a black book on Harold Washington. He said, we don't care if you have a green book on him. We're going to vote for Harold Washington. Well, you know, Harold Washington went to jail. So what? We went to jail too. Well, you know, Harold Washington just don't pay his gas bill. So what? We're behind our gas bills too. We're going to vote for Harold Washington. And they had a political analyst in Chicago who said, I've been a political analyst for 35 years, and there's something out there that I can't put my finger on that's happening to that community. I knew what was happening. The thing that was happening to us is that we were unified ourselves. And when we unified ourselves, what happened in Chicago? Harold Washington went to the 5th floor, didn't he? He went to the 5th floor because we unified ourselves. Okay? And this is what we're going to have to do. We're going to have to unify ourselves. We're going to have to shed ourselves of all religion in order for us to see who we are spiritually. I was at the University of Chicago last year to hear a lecture by a member of our race. He had graduated from the University of Chicago Theology School of Divinity. And he was teaching at one of the colleges in California. And he was up there, he was very proper. He was using great, big, huge college, university words that you knew nothing about. At least I didn't. And he was rattling off all kinds of books that you can buy and so forth and so on. So anyway, At the end of his lecture, I had questions and answers. I raised my hand. And he pointed to me. I said, sir, let me ask you a question and make a suggestion at the same time. The question that I want to ask you and suggestion that I want to make is this. Do you think it would be better for you to teach your students about the historical origin of these various religions? And the man, to my dismay, got heartless mad at me. And a long story short, about 30 days later, I woke up one morning with that on my mind. I said, why did this man get so mad at me? And the answer came back to me. And this is the answer. The answer that I received was this. If an individual knew the historical origin of a religion, they will never embrace a religion as long as you live, if you knew the historical origin of it. Okay? What they teach you about these various religions is traditional religious theology. The nice part. The things that they want you to know. The things that they have prepared for you to know. Okay? But on the other side of the coin, they don't teach you the historical origin of it. Because if you knew the historical origin of a religion, you would never embrace that religion. In my book, The Historical Origin of Christianity, it tells you how the European, Alexander the Greek, coming into Egypt in 332 BCE, how he tried to get himself admitted into the ancient Egyptian priest society. He was rejected. He died 9 years later, 323 BCE. And in his place came Ptolemy I, one of his army generals called Lagi, called Soter, S-O-T-E-R, means savior. That's very important because you do have a savior in Christianity. Is that correct? Okay. This Ptolemy Lagi tried to get himself admitted into the ancient Egyptian priest society. But he also was rejected. So what happened was that he found a priest society in Memphis, Egypt, to make his image into a god. The Greeks and the Romans knew that in order to rule Egypt, they had to be accepted into the ancient Egyptian sacred priest society. But they were rejected because the ancient Egyptian priest society did not take foreigners into their priesthood, and especially illiterate, savage foreigners. Okay? So you have to remember that when the Europeans came into Egypt, and it still stands today, that he was an agnostic. He didn't know he was, but he was. Atheist, psychopathic, schizophrenic, uncivilized individual. That's what he had. And when Ptolemy found this priest society in Memphis, Egypt, he says, make my image into a god. And they took two of our ancient Egyptian gods, Osiris and Apis, and made a composite of the two, and came out with the name Osiris, and gave this title, or this name, to Ptolemy I Lagi, and called him Serapis, and gave him the characteristics of our god Osiris, or our ancestor Osiris. And he, at that time, took his image and tried to get it accepted into the priest society throughout Egypt, rejected. He wanted his image to be put into the temples throughout Egypt to be worshipped, right along with our royal ancestor, Osiris, rejected. So he closed down all the temples throughout Egypt. And he confiscated all of those divine scroll manuscripts that our ancestors had created over the centuries and over the years. And he housed them in the temple that created his image into a god. You see? You have to understand also, during the time of antiquity, our ancestors worshiped and gave homage to their ancestors, our ancestors, such as Osiris, the father, such as Isis, the mother, and the son, the S-U-N, Horus. Those were the royal ancestors of the ancient Egyptians. And when the European came, he wanted to be made part of that. And he wanted someone to make him a God. You see, God is a man.
This image
during the time of Constantine, and we're talking about in the 4th century, a division came about, and is known in history as the Donatist Schismatic controversies. Okay. That controversy caused Constantine to go to a member of the exterior Coptic religious community who had refused to accept this white man as God, and made a deal with that individual. That individual was named Sylvester I, said, listen, Sylvester, if you accept Sacredness, this white image, into your community, and get the rest of your people to do the same, I will give you my imperial emblems of authority over that community. In other words, you will be the head NIC. You know the head, you know HNIC. And all I want is to be baptized in that community, in your community. That's all I want to do. And if you do that, you have authority over the whole community. I have no authority. So Sylvester accepted that. And he became the head HNIC over the Coptic community. And that deal is known in history as the donation of Constantine. That's the name of it. It's all historical. The donation of Constantine. And then we also had a bishop in our community by the name of Arius. He says, no, we cannot accept that because this image of Sacredness is nothing but a created creature, dissimilar from the father Osiris, but nevertheless a creature nevertheless. And that caused what is known in history as the Nicene Council. Everybody heard of the Nicene Council? Those three things caused the Nicene Council to come about. It's all in our book. And at the Nicene Council, they took that image that we know today of Jesus Christ, they're known as Sacredness, and inserted it into our ancient Egyptian divine triad. The ancient Egyptian divine triad consists of Osiris the Father, Isis, the holy Hathor cow mother, and Horus, the S-U-N. They took Horus out of that divine triad and put in a European white man as the S-O-N. And if you listen to the preachers, they tell you that Jesus Christ is the Son of Man. You ever heard of that statement? That's true. Man created Jesus the Christ. Okay? So this image was inserted right there in the council called the Council of Nicaea I, or the Nicene Council. And that is also called the Nicene Council, or the Council of Nicaea, is also called the Homoousios Council, creating what is known as the Homoousios Creed. Okay? And then we're going to move up to another council meeting 56 years later, the Council of Constance #1 in 381. That council was called because the Roman government accepted the Nicene Homoousios Creed as their government creed. And they wanted everybody under their jurisdiction, especially the Coptic Egyptians, who had rejected that image for over 700 years, had rejected that image, refused to worship it. They wanted that community to accept this European image as their God. And when that community refused, then this Roman ruler began to confiscate their property, their personal property, and so forth and so on. But he was reminded, said, hey, you can't do that. A bishop by the name of Ambrose said, you can't do that, simply because of the donation of Constantine. See, the donation of Constantine gave him no power over our community, this European Roman. So he had to back down. Coptic Egyptians who believed that this image that we know today as Jesus Christ being on the Sacredness had only one nature, a spiritual nature, but not a human nature. So how does one get a human nature? You have to be born through the body of a woman. Is that correct? So now here these male-type full-time Negroes, as we call them, use that word Negro, because they were Coptic Egyptians. They called this council meeting called the Council of Ephesus 431 to get this created creature, Cerebus, known today as Jesus Christ, a human nature. And here's how they did it. They went into our ancient Egyptian divine triad and took our female goddess, Isis, out of that triad, or out of that trinity, and discarded her. And they created a created creature called the Virgin Mary, and gave that created creature the title of Theotokos. The word Theotokos means the mother of God. And they took that created creature, the Virgin Mary, with that created title, Theotokos, and they amalgamated her, or that name, or that creature, with this other creature, Cerebus. And when that was done, this Cerebus image had a diaphysitic nature, had two natures, a spiritual nature and a human nature. And now, these Coptic male-type Uncle Tom said that now you are the anointed one. Now you are the Messiah, not A-H, Messiah. That's a different meaning, A-A-S. In Coptic Egyptian Greek means Christos, in English Christ. So these Uncle Tom, male-type ancestors of ours, created this image 751 years prior to the Council of Ephesus. And now 751 years later, they have given this image a human nature and a spiritual nature, a diaphysitic nature. Okay? So that's how this image got to be the Christ. And then the Nestorians, the Monophysite, still said we're not accepting that. That's those grassroots Coptic Egyptians, like we are, not the bourgeois. And then another council meeting was called, the Council of Chalcedon. And at the Council of Chalcedon, 451, they said we're going to end all of the arguments over this issue. What went on 20 years prior is valid, without any argument. And they end that council meeting called the Council of Chalcedon. And at that point, Christianity as a religion began at that point. Okay? This is history. But when you embrace a religion, they don't tell you this. They're not talking about this in traditional religious theology. Because if you knew this, you would be a Christian, wouldn't you? If you knew how this dead white man on the cross got to be the Christ, and how your ancestors, our ancestors, created this image, how our ancestors, your ancestors, fought against this image, of accepting this image, you would never embrace religion. Okay? And in my book, I'm also telling you that you heard of the Prophet Muhammad, the name the Prophet Muhammad? Never been a Prophet Muhammad. Mohammedanism came out of Monophysite Christianity. I asked Muslims, I said, you're Muslim? So yes, brother, I'm a Muslim. I said, do you know the historical origin of Christianity? The answer is no. Then you know nothing about Islam. You don't know about Islam. You don't know the historical origin of Christianity. Because Mohammedanism came out of Monophysite Christianity. Somebody born in Mecca in 634 and all that other kind of stuff. His wife was Khadijah, and his daughter was Fatima, and they go on and on, I tell you that his father-in-law was Abu Bakr, and the successor of Abu Bakr was Omar, and the successor of Omar was Uthman, and then his nephew was Ali, and Ali married his daughter Fatima, and it goes on and on. All based off lies. Okay? It was Mohammedanism before it was Islam. Okay? And the name Muhammad, like I mentioned before, did not come about, or was not created until the 13th century, 1240 to be exact. Okay? And that name was Al-Wigwa al-Muhammadiyya. Al-Wigwa means to sing the praises of Muhammad. You know that when Muslims speak the name Prophet Muhammad, they say peace be unto him, brother, they go through a whole lot of rituals. Just making an excuse for pronouncing the name. That's all out of Al-Wigwa al-Muhammadiyya, or the near Muhammadiyya. You see? So, in my book, I'm touching on something about Islam also. So we have to know these things historically if we are to advance ourselves going into the 21st century as a people. We have to have knowledge. We have to have scholars who have done the research to back up the scholarship. And it's a funny thing. I have a $5,000 reward, I'll use that term, for anybody of any race, creed, or color to repudiate what I'm saying. And I said, there's no Jesus Christ, repudiate that. And I said, there's no Prophet Muhammad, repudiate that. And I said, there's never been men that walked the earth in human form by the name of Abraham, Isaac, Jacob, and Moses, repudiate that. Not by words, not by barber shopping, not by pool room talk, not by parking lot talk, not by hanging on the corner talk. I'm saying repudiate it. Do some research. Write a repudiating paper and give it to me. Say, Mr. Williams, I have heard what you say about these religions, and I repudiate what you're saying, and this is my research. Hasn't been done. I'm on talk radio, especially in Chicago a lot. And they bring up rabbis to get me. They bring up Roman Catholic priests to get me. They bring up Muslims to get me. They bring in Jehovah's Witnesses to get me. I asked a Jehovah's Witness one day. I said, listen, are you a Jehovah's Witness? Oh, yes, I'm a Jehovah's Witness. I said, who's the founder of the Jehovah's Witness sect? And his mouth flew open, big silence on that, and flies were swarming around. He couldn't tell me who's the founder. I said, you meantime you going around worrying people, knocking on people's door, worrying the hell out of people this morning. Yes, you got some kind of Jehovah's Witness. Let me have a few words with you, brother. I'll tell you about the Jehovah's Witness in the watchtower. And you don't even know the founder of the sect. I said, now you're going to come to me and want to debate me on something you know nothing about. So I understand that. So my reward is still there. Okay? And as I go around the country, I run into Muslims, especially coming from the nation of Islam. I'm not criticizing, but I'm bringing out the point. They're the most hard-headed people I've ever seen in my life. You can't tell them nothing. See? They know everything, but they don't call you brother too. Now, brother, no, you're wrong. See? And I only know one person on earth that knows everything. You know who that is? A fool. A fool knows everything. But you can't tell a damn fool anything. See? And in my book, I'm explaining to you about the word fact. And this is what I'm presenting to you, fact, which are stronger than argument.
Okay, that would keep you going for a while.